This should have been an important, historic even, sombre occasion when after over 36,000 Palestinians have been slaughtered, including over 14,000 children, and Gaza razed to the ground by Israel in an orgy of genocidal violence, and after many months of protesting and campaigning, with public opinion overwhelmingly in support of an immediate ceasefire and against Israel's military onslaught, which has been unleashed against the people of Gaza since October 7th. The political establishment of the UK finally, perhaps dragged kicking and screaming, but there nonetheless, to demand that this horror finally must stop. But instead, the House of Commons descended into chaos. Why? Because of grubby, cynical and disgraceful machinations by soulless, heartless political climbers, nope, not gonna pull my punches here, whose track record already demonstrably shows they have no interest in Palestinian life, or indeed anything meaningful except seeking power for its own sake. Let's just sum up what's happened. The Tory government, as you'll be aware, has backed Israel's mass slaughter of Gaza from the start. That matters. Why? Because the UK arms Israel and uses its diplomatic power to support Israel, not least given the UK has a place on the UN Security Council, for example, and is the closest ally, purportedly at least, of the US, which of course is Israel's key protector. Now, the Tory government has been protected by the Labour opposition, which has backed them all the way, forming a shield around the government as public opinion has hardened against the mass slaughter of innocent Palestinians. So the Tories didn't come under pressure because the Labour leadership decided not to channel that growing public anger and instead just to sing the same tune. The SNP, on the other hand, and I speak here as a Scottish National Party for international audiences, I speak here as someone who's not a Scottish nationalist, they took a different position, undoubtedly influenced by the SNP's solid record when it comes to foreign policy calamities such as the Iraq War. A clue, the SNP was right about that. The faction now running the Labour Party, many of whom would invade Iraq all over again, even knowing what they know now, well, they were wrong, to say the least. It's also notable that the SNP leader, Humza Yousaf, has a Scottish Palestinian partner, that their loved ones were trapped in Gaza for weeks, causing them unimaginable worry and anxiety and stress, that his brother-in-law is a doctor working for Gaza's ruined healthcare system, risking his life in the most impossibly unimaginable conditions. That is a personal stake in a principled stance. We'll come on to that. Now, as per parliamentary tradition, opposition parties are allotted what are known as opposition days, in which they are able to set the agenda to raise issues of importance to them. The SNP, as a smaller opposition party than the Labour, rarely gets such days. So the SNP used that rare opportunity to table a motion on a ceasefire. And it was a motion that was very clear. Let's just read it. That this House calls for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and Israel. Notes with shock and distress that the death toll has now risen beyond 28,000, the vast majority of whom were women and children. Further notes that there are currently 1.5 million Palestinians sheltering in Rafah, 610,000 of whom are children. Also notes that they have nowhere else to go. Condemns any military assault on what is now the largest refugee camp in the world. Further calls for the immediate release of all hostages taken by Hamas and an end to the collective punishment of the Palestinian people, and recognises that the only way to stop the slaughter of innocent civilians is to press for a ceasefire now. Spot on. Absolutely spot on.